Here's a basic map of how you would connect your audio-video receiver with all your devices in your television. To try to keep this simple, I'm going to break out the connections into these 3 different parts. Or actually, you can skip to this part if you need help with why you're not getting surround sound. And here are the timestamps for the other topics. Go ahead and fast forward to that to have a closer look. So let's begin with the devices that you'll be plugging into the back of your receiver. They could just be audio devices, video devices, or a combination of both. That's why these are called audio-video receivers and are abbreviated as AVRs. And if yours happens to have 5 pairs of speaker terminals, that means that it's equipped for surround sound, which is the main function of a home theater system. And that's why both of these names are pretty interchangeable. If your receiver happens to have a yellow RCA port, that means you'll be able to connect older devices like these. Here's an example of connecting a typical RCA device. The red and white cables are going to send the left and right audio into your receiver, while the yellow cable takes care of sending up the video. You can skip to here if you're ready to see how you can get those devices to show up on your TV. Keep in mind that you can listen to your music through here, whether it's through your phone, an old MP3 player, or even a turntable. If it's a portable music device, just use the headphone jack to plug it in using an aux to RCA cable like this. Or perhaps you'll need an RCA to RCA cable to plug in something like a record player. If the record player says line out, great, you can connect it directly into your receiver. Now, as far as the labels on the receiver, don't think that you're limited to only plug what they're marked as. Like these here that say cable and DVD. Those are just suggestions. You can plug in any RCA audio device. Connecting HDMI devices is very simple because that one cable contains both video and audio signals. With the HDMI device connected to our receiver, the receiver can now play back the sound through its speakers. Even better, the HDMI cable can actually carry 5 channels of audio, meaning you're on your way to getting surround sound. Skip up to this part if you think you'll need some help with that. Well then, let's get into the speakers. In this chapter of the video, we're going to get into the placement of the speakers around you and where precisely you have to plug them into your receiver. Let's begin with the placement of the speakers based on where we'll be sitting. Grab any of the 5 speakers you have and turn it around and look at the back. The back of this one reads SUR-L, which is an abbreviation for surround left. Depending on the brand, they may choose to call it back left or rear left. Either way, we know it goes on the left, and we'll put this one either behind or next to where we'll be sitting. So there it is, but now we need to connect it into our system. And thankfully the wires are usually pretty long to reach, but if you need to go out further, you can bring in some more speaker wire. You can check out this other video I made if you're not very used to working with this type of cable. Alright, back to the diagram. Here's where you'll want to place the rest of your speakers, with the center one in front of you that's reserved for the actor voices. Now, do you have a subwoofer? If so, great, that's going to make all the difference. I say that because oddly enough, this speaker is not designed to be heard, but felt. Basically, that missing bass, also known as low frequency effects, and it's usually recommended to be placed in a corner next to your display. By the way, the subwoofer is the 0.1 and 5.1. Now, as far as hooking up your speakers correctly, it's just going to be a matter of matching them up properly. For example, my back, rear, or surround left speaker would go into this terminal, while the front or regular left would go into this one. If you're on this part looking for help on how to get the audio from the TV to sound out through your external speakers, actually skip up to the troubleshooting part. This chapter is going to be about getting all those devices that you have connected to the receiver to show up on your TV. If you want to skip up 40 seconds for RCA, go right ahead, because we're going to start off with HDMI. What's going on here is that you're feeding the video signal into your receiver. So the receiver has it, let's take it out of there and forward that video signal over to our TVs through your receiver's designated HDMI out port. If you're thinking, why don't I just connect it straight into my TV as usual? Well, you could, But now your external speakers won't have any audio to play. Yeah, even though it does mean you'll need another HDMI cable to help forward that video signal over to your TV. Then it's just a matter of, from your receiver, choosing which of those connected devices you want to hear out of your speakers and see on your display. Voila. By the way, are any of your HDMI ports marked ARC? Check out this video to see why it's quite convenient. Now let's get into connecting your RCA devices into your receiver. If you've done that like we see here, because our receiver now has the video signal, we want to send it out of there using this video out port through another yellow composite video cable. So yeah, you will have to bring in another one of these. If you don't have one, perhaps you can stretch that one from your device all the way over to your TV. Yep, you can actually pull them apart if they're this kind of cable. Like these two sets used to be one, and I pulled them apart, no problem. But it's likely that your TV doesn't even have that yellow port. Well, here's what you can do. You can bring in one of these converters and plug that yellow cable into the converter, and through the other end, continue out through HDMI up to your TV. This way you can watch all your old tapes on your new TV. Whee! Prior to purchase though, make sure it's not HDMI to AV. What's the difference? It's all in the order. The name is crucial, and it's gotta be AV to HDMI. Now let's shoot down some of this trouble we may be having. Okay, say you have everything hooked up, but you're still not actually getting real surround sound. There may be several reasons for this. A big one actually has nothing to do with your setup, but your content. Was that engineered with surround sound? You can imagine that not everything out there was. So you'll have to check your content's description and look for 5.1, Dolby, or DTS. Now to check on media apps, look in their description too. If it's not listed but you think it should be, you may have to activate it in your TV settings. But before we get into that, keep this next part in mind. In order for 5 channels of audio to make it to your receiver, the audio signal has to be sent through a cable that can actually carry 5 audio channels. You should know that the typical RCA and aux connectors can only carry 2 channels apiece, while these newer cables can transfer 5 or even more channels of audio. This doesn't mean aux and RCA audio quality is bad, it's just that the newer cables are much more versatile. If your content does indeed have surround sound available, and you are using one of these cables, well, now it's just a matter of choosing surround sound from all the available audio modes. If your receiver itself plays content like one of these, you should be all set. But if you have this type, it may have multiple audio options. So scroll through until you find the one for surround sound. Now, if your content is coming from your TV, go to your TV's audio settings to activate Dolby and DTS if it's there too. Okay, so now, so long as the content you're trying to watch actually does have 5.1 potentially there, it should now appear as part of the description, as where it probably didn't before. Now, when you play it though, just make sure that you go into the audio track options to select 5.1. I could go on, but I gotta stop somewhere. Now I'm gonna make more videos related to this stuff, so stay tuned, and in the meantime you can check these out. Like to help me, share to help out others, and sub to stay in the loop. You can even support directly with the YouTube thanks button. Hope you get connected, and I'll see you on the next one. If you want your HDMI